We all want to feel peace in our lives, peace in our choices, our beliefs, our relationships, and our environment. I've learned that this desired contentment is often found through holding on to less. When we pare down what we own, what we consume, and what we value, we're left with what's intentional, a personalized curation of what is important and true and useful to us. I'm Shannon Leyko, and you're listening to Paring Down, a podcast aimed at helping you declutter not only your home, but any area of your life that's overwhelming. Here, we're having interesting and honest conversations about the physical and mental clutter that drowns out what truly matters to each of us. And together, we'll learn how to pare it all down, not for the sake of perfection or becoming rigid, rather so we can move through life with less overwhelm and more joy, wisdom, and peace. Hello, welcome back to Paring Down. I'm Shannon Leyko, and I'm just so glad that you're here. Today is an episode where I'm not having a guest on. I'd like to do these solo episodes sometimes, either to discuss a specific area of our home or of my home in particular that I'm working on or have worked on, and I can give tips or at least just kind of walk you through what I'm doing as inspiration or just to feel like you have someone doing it with you. Sometimes we just need to feel like we are not alone in decluttering all of our stuff. So you can put this on as background noise if you are working on a space, and hopefully it'll be even more encouraging than listening to music. Like sometimes I like to put on NSYNC when I am decluttering. I don't know. Is that just me? Is that weird? I do love NSYNC, but I also love a good inspirational podcast to keep me going. So that's what I hope to be for you. But today we're not actually going to talk about a specific type of item or a specific area of my home. Today, I just kind of want to talk about the sentimentality in stuff and how that can be such a big roadblock for decluttering. Sometimes we don't even start decluttering stuff that we're not attached to because we are so caught up with, but what about when I have to address X, Y, or Z that I am attached to? And then we give up altogether, you know? So most professional organizers or declutterers, is that an actual word? I don't know, just made it up. Most people will say, start with something that's not sentimental. And of course that makes sense. But ultimately, a lot of different stuff can be sentimental, and we're going to come across sentimental items even when we're addressing things that aren't sentimental to us. And so not freezing up is really important. Not feeling like, what is the point of decluttering everything else if I'm not going to be able to declutter the stuff that I'm attached to? I don't know. I'm an all or nothing person, so you might feel me on that. So today, let's just kind of talk through why we put so much value and sentimentality in possessions. I don't think that it's unreasonable, right? So some of you might know this, but when I was 24, my mom passed away of bladder cancer. It was very quick, very sudden. And she was diagnosed in March of 2012, and she passed away on Labor Day. She was a nutritionist, a cardiac rehab nurse, a triathlete. The women on her side of the family all lived into their 90s. I mean, truly the picture of health. And one day, she had some symptoms, went to the doctor like she was supposed to, and she passed away 5 months later after we did everything we possibly could. And I don't share that to be like a Debbie Downer, but of course it's awful and sad, and I miss my mom every day. But I share about it because having lost such an important person to me shed some serious light onto what sentimental items really mean. I think when there's something big that happens in your life, it reveals a lot about different values you hold. So for my mom, I had to really decide what of hers do I want to keep because everything was sentimental, right? Everything was. I remembered her wearing these like big shorts she had that I thought were hideous, but like she would wear these pleated shorts to church whenever we'd have an outdoor service, like a picnic service. And she had, the dress that she wore when she came and saw me at Miss Virginia, and she had all of her running t-shirts. My mom, like I said, was a triathlete, so from all her different races, the shirts that she would wear, and I would remember seeing her wear them as she jogged through our neighborhood as I was pulling in or out of the driveway as a teenager. I just have this vision of my mom like waving at me like, "Hi honey," as she goes on her run. And so everything felt sentimental except like her socks, and that's just clothing that I touched on. So of course I had to figure out like, what do I want to keep? And I didn't want to keep everything for a couple reasons. A, that's impractical. B, my mom would not want that for me. She just wouldn't. She wouldn't want me to hold on to every single sweater that reminded me of her. That was not part of her values. Like growing up, I'm so fortunate. I did not live in a super cluttered home. My mom was not attached to stuff. So I knew that that was a value she wouldn't want me to take on out of sadness. Um, and then the other piece was I didn't want to just remember my mom inside of stuff. My mom was more than the clothes she wore. My mom was more than the decor she had in her home. My mom was more than the pretty teacups and china that had been passed down to her. My mom was a source of advice. She made me feel loved. I just remember her jumping up and down and clapping whenever she got excited. She was funny. She was practical. She was supportive. I mean, she came to every single pageant that I wanted to go to, not just the ones that I competed in, but when I was really into the Miss America organization, I liked to go watch other pageants. And I remember one time she and my stepdad drove 2 hours with me just to go like watch a local pageant. My mom, those memories, all the memories I have of my mom and with my mom are so much more than stuff. And as much as I've held on to 2 of her running shirts and 2 of her sweaters that I can wear as well, right? I don't want them just to sit in a box, something that I can put on. Actually, I'm recording a video as well. So some of you might see this. And I have on a necklace that my mom wore in the 80s, and it has 2 little figurines. One's pink and one's blue, and they represent my brother and me, because even though we think necklaces with our kids' names or whatever are so trendy and not timeless, they're actually, I feel like, have been going on forever. So I have one from the 80s on currently that represents my brother and me that my mom used to wear. And so I've kept these things that are useful, that are not sitting in boxes. And as much as they mean a lot to me when I put them on and they give me little jolts of feeling close to my mom, they're not what I actively think about. That's not when I actively feel like I remember her the most. I remember her just because when I move through life, different things remind me of her. I remember her because every time I reach for something, my hands look just like hers. I remember her because when I say something to my kids, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what my mom used to say to me. And these memories and the way that we can revere something from our past or someone from our past are inside of us and in the world around us, not in stuff. So I feel fortunate in a sense that losing my mom offered me that perspective when it comes to being sentimental with items, because I'm able to carry that lesson into other things, right? So if I'm holding onto something that represents my children, like their clothes from when they were little. Remembering that the memories aren't in the stuff. The memories are in the memories. The memories are inside of us. They're in my kids. Whenever Anders makes a concentrating face, he's my 5-year-old, his upper lip like pushes out over his bottom lip. It's so cute when he concentrates. And he's been making that face since when he was 4 months old and concentrating on trying to lift his head up. Or I guess at 4 months old, they're doing more than that. But like that face has been the same. Those memories live there. I don't need all the onesies he wore during that time to remind me of who he was and how precious those times were. Of course, I've held on to a couple of things, but what's interesting too, I want to make this point, is that what you're ready to let go of now as you approach sentimental items doesn't have to be like the end all be all of approaching those items. What I mean by that is when I started a little memory box for each of my kids, they had probably 3 or 4 onesies in them. Josephine had this like cute little vest, whatever. And I tried to be really specific about what I was keeping, but I, put that stuff in there. And then when they turned 1 or 2 and it was time to put a 1 or 2-year-old outfit in there, or their little pair of Ugg boots or whatever I wanted to keep, I saw all those things from a year ago, those onesies. And I said, I just don't know if that one really feels that special to me anymore. I think I'm just going to keep the one that he came home from the hospital in. Or I think I'm just going to keep this one because it's so cute and in such good condition that I know hopefully someday if I have a grandson, he can wear it. And I got rid of 2 more onesies, So as I was putting something in, I was actually taking other things out. So what feels sentimental to us right now might not feel sentimental to us in a way that's impossible to get rid of in the future. And just keep that in mind. Be gentle with yourself. Do the best you can right now with your stuff. And then you can revisit that and see if your tune has changed at all down the line. You don't have to get it perfect and like perfectly decluttered right off the bat. And that was the case with my mom's stuff too, honestly. Like I used to own more of her jewelry, like her she used to have, great 80s earrings and necklaces. And I really pared down a lot of that stuff over time when I was like, you know what? I don't need to keep these earrings. I'm going to keep the funny cat earrings for Halloween and this sweet Christmas necklace, but I don't need all the like Go Navy pins that she used to wear because my dad was in the Navy, it just takes a little bit of time. So being gentle with yourself, like doing the best you can to start and knowing that you can revisit again and your tune might change. I feel like that is helpful because, again, that all or nothing mindset can really make us freeze up. Another thing that I think about when I'm really into, I don't know, feeling really sentimental about something, I have to think about, okay, is this actually something that is consistently bringing me memories, or is it just sitting in a box in my garage or in the closet and I'm forgetting about it? I kind of touched on this with like the sweaters of my mom's, but I was like, I'm not gonna let my mom's sweaters sit in a box. What is the point? I'm going to keep 2 that I can wear. I actually have a little Chatty Cathy doll. My mom's name was Kathy and she had a Chatty Cathy doll, and it's from the 70s, probably 70s, 60s. And I'm saving it for when Joe's old enough not to like cut dolls' hair off. So that is in a box, but it has a specific intention for it. Like I want to see if my daughter is interested in playing with it. And it's a really cool doll from the 60s. It's like pretty vintage. So, but again, if it's sitting in a box, it's not serving you and it's not giving you your memories. So display it, use it, wear it, put it somewhere where you're going to see it like consistently. And if that's not an option, then ask yourself, is this worth keeping? Because it's not really serving your life, And another approach I take is thinking about how it actually makes me feel. So I think when you keep too much sentimental stuff, it can make you sad. It can make you not be grateful for the present. Like if you are so caught up in the past and holding on to so much from the past, it makes it really hard to have space for right now. If you're holding on to all of the kids' stuff or all of the nursery photos on the wall, that one's a big one for me right now. I'm like, when do I take down the cute baby newborn photos that are on JoJo's wall? She's 3.5. I love them there right now, but when we move again, because we will be moving in a year and a half, and I give her more of a big girl room, do I have those newborn pictures on the wall? I mean, maybe. Or am I holding on to a time in her life that no longer serves her? Maybe she would rather have a picture of her from dance class on her wall. And really embracing where we are in the present. That doesn't mean I throw away the newborn photos. I am a big fan of, especially when it comes to photos on the wall, just replace the photo the same size with something that's more updated and keep the old one behind it. You're not adding more clutter to your space, and you can look at it, or you can, every time you add in a new photo that is more present, you can kind of flip back through, oh, remember when this was on the wall? And it is a special time of reflection without it actively having so much on your wall at once that is just reminding you of the past and not letting you live in the present. But so there's that aspect of it, but there's also, how does it actually make you feel? Like, is it a good memory? Okay, so let me try and give an example. Yearbooks for me. Erin and I were going through some of our yearbooks recently, and I'm like, which ones do I keep? Should I keep this one? I mean, I think the kids would think it's fun to see pictures of me when I was in 7th grade. But then every time I touched it, I wasn't excited and full of, I don't know, good memories and happiness. I felt this sense of dread. And so I was like, Erin, can we talk through this? I feel like I need to process something out loud. I'm an external processor, so sometimes I just need to talk about things. God bless my husband. He just puts on his listening ears and lets me talk. And so I was like, why do I feel a little sick to my stomach whenever I touch this yearbook? What was my life like in 7th grade? Well, I ate by myself in the bathroom stall during lunch because I didn't have anyone to sit with in the cafeteria. So I would go get my food from the lunch line, and then I would take it off the tray, whatever I could carry, or sometimes I'd even leave it on the tray, and I would go find a stall in the bathroom, the handicap stall, usually because it was bigger, and I would eat my lunch in there by myself. Or I would try and eat it really quickly and then go to the bathroom and just stay in there during lunch because I just didn't feel like I had anyone to sit with. And so that time in my life, and I also knew that there were girls that didn't like me, and I felt really misunderstood. And so I know, of course, I always just think of how I felt, but I know that there were times where I would be in arguments with girls, or that there was tension with other girls who I thought that I was mean, or I don't know, annoying. I'm probably more annoying than mean. I'm not a mean person, but they thought I was annoying. And I think I didn't handle that well. I mean, I was 12. And so I would then maybe snap at them, or I would try too hard and be even more annoying. And I don't know. I just look back at that time in my life, and I don't think I was making great choices when it came to my friendships. I absolutely was hurt and awkward and uncomfortable. And while I was active in school, there's plenty of pictures of me from the chorus page, or, in class and the yearbook, whatever. None of them really bring back great memories for me. I'm just right back to being that girl that felt misunderstood and ate in the bathroom by herself. And that is not something I want to keep. And my kids don't need to see a picture of me from 7th grade in the yearbook. They'll be fine. And if I don't want to keep it, they probably don't want to keep it either. So we got rid of that yearbook. So that was a pretty disjointed story. Sorry. But my point was to trying to explain, are you holding on to something because you feel like you should hold on to it? Or even if it doesn't actually make you feel all that good? That's something to consider too when it comes to sentimental items. And that can go in many ways. It might make you feel guilty that you bought it while you were on vacation and you probably spent too much money on it, so you should keep it. Or I mean, there's a million different reasons that an item doesn't actually make you feel good, that you're holding onto it for sentimental reasons that are not like good sentimental reasons. And consider that and say, is this something I really want to keep in my life? Is this adding positivity and value to my life? Um, you know, overall, I would just say that when it comes to sentimental stuff, start small. Start with things that maybe don't give you those good feelings, like that very last thing I said. That might be an easiest place to start when it comes to sentimental items, are ones that don't feel super great when you pick them up. Or go to ones that are in boxes rather than displayed around your house and be like, this little thing's been sitting in here for a while. And then really just get deep with yourself and say, am I putting my memories in stuff instead of recognizing that they can live with me and around me? So I hope that this was helpful. I know this was a bit of like a therapy session, but I think the heart behind our stuff holds a lot of power. And I don't want you guys to feel stuck on sentimental items because that can be a really emotional place. And decluttering is emotional in many levels, but there are ways to reframe and to move past the clutches that stuff has on us. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoyed this little solo episode. You just listened to an episode of Paring Down with me, Shannon Leyko. If you enjoyed the show, it would mean the world if you can leave a review wherever you listen and share this episode with a friend. Those reviews really are what keeps a podcast on its feet for the long haul, and I will read every single one with a huge smile on my face, so thank you ahead of time. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, be sure to follow along on Instagram at Paring Down Podcast, where I offer lots of tips and inspiration for paring down, along with what's new here on the podcast. Till next time.